We are not going to do anything tonight. We're just going to hand the whole thing over to Michelle LeMay. So welcome her. Yay. Oh, do we have announcements?
Before we do handing out, the only reason, yeah, right. We're going to turn it over to her in just a moment. But a couple of great announcements that we have is that this Sunday is New Member Sunday. So, but it looks like you're all members. So, and we have a couple of great events coming up. This next Tuesday is Rita.
Oh, I'm starting an improv class here. So please join me. I'm only taking 20 people though, because I want to make sure everyone has time to work. So, yeah, Tuesday, 4 weeks. But you don't have to come to all of them.
And I have the Right, RIGHT, of Passage, of my 2-night workshop, which I'm so excited about. They contracted me to do it a couple places, and one was at Pu'ukumu for the teachers there. And I said, I can't wait to do it at the center. So it is all designed and ready to go. And do not let inner you fool you. I was saying the other day about inner child work because I'm very passionate about it, as most of you would know. And then I'm going, oh, you can't really say that because it makes people all freaked out. I'm going, oh, they're big boys and girls now. I was going, inner you, it's inner child and rite of passage. No matter what your rite of passage was, it's time that we design the right one where we're at whatever age it is. So please join me because I am very excited about this. Anything else? 24th?
Oh, we want you to put on your calendar Sunday, June 24th, that you will stay, especially if you're a member, but everybody here is a member. We're having a very, very, very important and special meeting concerning our future. So we have 2.5 years left here. So we want everybody to be at that meeting that can be there because it's important. And we are going to live stream.
And we're live streaming it, so everyone will, 24th, right afterwards. So
Yes, sir.
Rob doesn't know we're live streaming it, but we are live streaming that.
I told him.
Yes?
When is your workshop?
We already said it.
Oh, no. You didn't say the date.
Tuesday, June 5th.
No, that's...
Oh, mine, June 14th and the 21st. What's that? It's open to the world. There you go. So, without further ado, I think that is it. Yes?
Yes. Here she is, Michelle LeMay.
Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be sharing about Louise Hay. And before I get into it, because I've got lots to share, and I know that we actually have some sharing probably from within the audience, I would like to do just a little bit of a centering, just to bring us right here to this moment, so you can get comfortable if you'd like. And take a deep breath. Collective together, just letting everything go that came before this moment. And knowing right here in this moment is spirit, is love, it's God. From moment to moment to moment, it's right in this present moment. That is where the point of power is. And knowing that this point of power, this presence, this moment is in, through, and as each one of us here in this room. And that we have a divine appointment as we celebrate this beautiful metaphysician called Louise Hay. The life of this magical woman as we share, as we laugh, as we celebrate her and her life. Knowing that this divine appointment has brought us together to learn, to grow, to share, to reveal that what needs to be heard is heard and what is said that needs to be said. And knowing that we come together in love, as love, for love. Because Louise was all about love. And I release my word knowing that tonight unfolds perfectly with ease and grace and fun and laughter and exactly as it's meant to be. I release it into the law and I send it on its way and I get out of the way and let spirit flow through as together we affirm it. And so it is. Oh, well, welcome. Now, first question, is there anybody not familiar with Louise Hay? And this is your first time learning anything? Okay, good. So, because I was actually, believe it or not, met some people today who had never heard of her. And I was kind of, my head spun a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay. So I invited them. But they had other plans. But the reason why I'm excited about Louise Hay is because she was the first author I ever met through her book, You Can Heal Your Life, that was metaphysical in the sense that like I could really understand her and I could really grasp it. And Ron is waving some in the back. We have some for sale. There's a few copies left, so at the break or after, you're more than welcome to purchase. But it was life-changing for me. And I was in my early 20s, and it was the first step to what I believe led me right here to CSL. And I'll share her story, I'll share her life, I'll share some of what is happening now, even after her death, like her legacy and her work still continues. And then there'll also be a little bit of audience participation as we go along. How does that sound? All right. So Louise Hay, she was known for a few things. Well, she was known for many things, but definitely all about self-love, forgiveness, inner work. She was so much about changing our thoughts to change our life. So what I would love to invite us to do is actually one of her meditations so that we can open the evening hearing her voice. And so with this, I will change screens, but feel free to get comfortable once again. I know you were all pretty grounded as I pull up the actual meditation. It's just a few minutes long, but I figured it would set the tone. Because if there is anything that needs to be forgiven in your life, if there is anything that needs to be revealed and needs to be healed, I invite this to the place to do it. Because we are love, we are supportive, and this is exactly what Louise would want as we share her legacy. So close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Leave them open if that's better. There are visuals, so you can use the visuals as your meditation. And just enjoy.
Positive affirmations for achieving forgiveness. The door to my heart opens inwards. I move through forgiveness to love. As I change my thoughts, the world around me changes. The past is over, so it has no power now. The thoughts of this moment create my future. It is no fun being a victim. I refuse to be helpless anymore. I claim my own power. I give myself the gift of freedom from the past and move with joy into the now. There is no problem too big or too small that it cannot be solved with love. I am ready to be healed. I am willing to forgive, and all is well. I know that old negative patterns no longer limit me. I let them go with ease. As I forgive myself, it becomes easier to forgive others. I forgive myself for not being perfect. I am living the very best way I know how. It is now safe for me to release all of my childhood traumas and move into love. I forgive everyone in my past for all perceived wrongs. I release them with love. All of the changes in life that lie before me are positive ones, and I am safe.
And so it is. She would like that too. Forgiveness. It's really where everything starts. And she really believed that everything and anything could be healed through love and forgiveness. As I go through her life story, the childhood that she grew up in, you'll see that she actually walked her walk. And if any of that meditation sounded familiar from coming on Sundays, you'll find out why as well. So what actually makes Louise so popular? Well, because she speaks for anyone, anywhere. She has a way of sharing that's just, well, it's loving and it's gentle, it's direct, but it's also non-dogmatic. She just shared in a general way, even though she was really rooted and steeped in the science of mind. She didn't preach about God, yet everything she shared about was God, and God in action especially. She believed that age was completely irrelevant to someone's success and their dreams fulfilling. She was no nonsense. She reminds me a little bit of Emma Curtis Hopkins in the sense that she was not about the story. She wanted to know what was really going on. Like, she may listen to the story, but she was really more wanting to find out the underlying cause, because there was always a spiritual cause, a mental cause, an emotional cause to what was happening in our lives. And she really did live what she taught, pretty much from her childhood, even though she didn't know it at the time, and in her early 20s, but all the way until she passed when she was 90. And she empowered people. I think that was one of the things that drew people to her. She didn't preach, she didn't dictate, she didn't tell people what to do necessarily. She invited people to take responsibility for their lives. And those who wanted to changed their lives. She really went through hell and turned her life around. And people can resonate with that. We've all had our challenges and our trials and tribulations that we've had to go through. And she was a huge advocate for love, and love in all its forms, but especially self-love, acceptance, and forgiveness, just like that meditation shared. She taught universal truths in a way that could be heard. And I believe that that was something magical about her. She just shared. She was so authentic and from her heart. And then she taught with conviction. She didn't doubt what she talked about. There wasn't any doubt at all. And I'm sure in the times when she had doubt, she just did exactly what we'll share that we learn here for Science of Mind and Spirit. So her childhood, she really actually had a really rough childhood. Lots of abuse, impoverished. She was born Helen Vera, I'm not sure if it's Lunny. I believe it's Lunny. Would you know, Deb? Because I know you worked with her.
I think it is Lonnie.
Lunny. In LA, her parents were Henry and Veronica, and they were divorced when she was very young. So this was in 1926 when she was born. So divorce was really unheard of. Being a single mom now is difficult, but back in the 20s and then in the early 30s was really challenging, and there was a lot of stigma around that. So it was really challenging, and her mom had to go to work, and she went, after the divorce, she went as a live-in domestic, and she could not bring Louise, then was Helen, with her. So she was actually boarded out, and she does recall, like, she has memories from that time, even though she was very young, of that need of love just not being fulfilled, the need to be held, like having her mom there is just not, like, she had those memories and believes that that's kind of what set, not kind of, but that's what set her up for certain events that happened to her in her life. But it didn't last very long, because the people that were watching her and boarding her, actually, she wouldn't stop crying. So the mom had to come and get, and like, change her life to be able to take care of Louise and also still work. And then she did remarry. But unfortunately, Louise doesn't know if she married for love or for a husband to take care of her. And that's really challenging, because when the love isn't there, anything can be allowed, especially if there's no self-esteem and self-worthiness, which she also believes is a cause of a lot of issues that happens in humans. So even though they were remarried and had a little bit more of a stable life, it was an abusive life. And then the Depression happened, and the Depression affected them just like anybody else. And she was about 5 at this time when the Great Depression came. So we know just in general about how those early years are so formative to our beliefs, to our self-worthiness, to the roots of issues that come down the line. And she spent many years working on these things and really digging to that's what she believes her underlying causes were. And around the time when she was 5, she was also raped by a neighbor. And she had to go to trial, and so she was put through a traumatic experience extremely young, both from the rape and then also from having to go to court in the whole process of trial, and spent many years in fear of what would happen once that neighbor got out of jail. So her whole childhood was all around insecurities, fear, scarcity, being impoverished. So when she was 15, she ran away. She dropped out of school and ran away because she just couldn't take the sexual abuse any longer. She became a waitress, so she started to support herself right away. And because of where she was emotionally and spiritually, she really didn't have too much self-respect. And so anybody that would be nice to her, pretty much she would sleep with. And she was one of the first that would talk about those things in her life because, first of that identification part, but also to show like where she's come from and how much she has grown. But she did become pregnant at 16, and it was a baby girl that she gave up for adoption. She knew the parents, and she actually lived with the parents for a few months before giving birth. But then when she gave birth to the baby, it was in that couple's name. So she never actually saw her daughter, and she never had any other children. After a few years, she did go back to help rescue her mom, and she calls it a rescue. She got her mom out of there and got her set up with a job, got her set up in an apartment, but they had to leave the sister behind. And by this point, the sister was now the victim of the stepdad's abuse. So it was very difficult to leave the sister there, and I'm not exactly quite sure why, but that's how it unfolded, and the sister stayed with the dad. Well, it was her dad, but her stepsister. And years later, they did have a healing between the sister and the mom, close to her mom's death, where they could come together and have a lot of healing and a lot of forgiveness. But, it's one of those, she just did what she had to do. And once her mom was settled and in a place where she felt that she was safe, she felt that she could actually go and have her own life now. So she moved to New York City, became a model. So this was in her 20s and her 30s. So she first actually she moved to Chicago, and then after a couple of years, that's when she moved to New York. And again, it was that same like man after man after man. Like she just never could find someone that treated her well because she didn't know how to treat herself well. And so she believes that everything is a mirror. And even though it was all unconscious at the time, she sees now that she kept attracting these situations because it's what she had to learn through, grow through. And so she did end up, after being a designer for a few years, she was a high fashion designer. I have some cool pictures of her when she was being a model, but she did for some high end. That's the time when she also changed her name to Louise. And then the Hay came in because she got married to an Englishman that was very wealthy, very well known, and his name was Andrew Hay. So in 1955, they got married, and it was as if the world opened up to her, because it was literally the world opened up. They traveled. He knew royalty, so they would go and dine with royalty. She even talks about a dinner that she had at the White House. So in her mind, out of the ashes, the phoenix. But really, the healing hadn't happened yet. It was to come. They were married for about 14 years, and then tragically, he ended up falling in love and wanting to marry and be with someone else. So they got divorced, and she was very devastated. And this is where, we hear about people's turning points. Rita talks about it, page 60 in a script where, like, the bottoms, like she hit her bottom, essentially. This was what helped her get there, along with everything prior. But she really, by hitting bottom, that's where we can push ourselves off as well. And that's what happened for Louise. So these are some of her modeling photos. Pretty sexy. She's beautiful. So this is when her life purpose was discovered. So it was just about 1970, and she walked into her first meeting at a church of religious science. This would forever change her life. She had no idea where she was going. A friend invited her to a meeting. She went. The friend never showed up. And something told her to pay attention. And it took her a long time to really realize and recognize how significant this one meeting was for her. So she started attending Sunday services, and she dove right into classes. As many of us do, we found home. Louise found home in religious science. Now, at the time, we're now Centers for Spiritual Living, but at that time it was called Church of Religious Science. Same. It had a different name. There had been a division, and then later on, a few decades later, the division was healed, and we now call ourselves Center for Spiritual Living, but also Science of Mind and Spirit. And I'll share a little bit more about what we believe too. But this was really significant because she resonated with what she heard here. She found her family. She found a philosophy that she could really delve into. And it took her 3 years, but she became a spiritual practitioner. She just started with classes and then eventually got her license, and it feels very funny because I just finished my exams for getting licensed. So thank you. And it was funny because when I was creating this, I was like, I'm seeing a few similarities, a few parallels, because it just started with one class for her, and it just continued. Class after class, became a practitioner, and people were so drawn to her and to work with her that pretty quickly it became her full-time career just doing these sessions. She did have to wait about a year before starting ministerial school. So in that time, she went to Maharishi's International University in Iowa. That was about a 1 year for transcendental meditation. And that's also what brings in a lot of her gifts, really. She's so big on affirmations and meditations. And one I shared with you was a small snippet, but there are, it's unlimited the amount of meditations that you can get right on YouTube. They've got CDs, everything. But this is where that background came from, was her year there. So she started by working with people and really helping people get down to the actual cause of what was happening. She started to see patterns in people. She started to see like, oh, when there's this belief, this physical ailment shows up. Oh, when this happens in someone's life that's traumatic, it manifests as this ailment. And so she started compiling it and made a little pamphlet that was soon to be called the Little Blue Book, Heal Your Body. And this was literally on her own. Like, she just kind of typed it up. It was a pamphlet. And then she started traveling and touring and sharing this around from center to center and eventually out of the churches of religious sciences to other venues. And really what started to happen is just her life started to unfold, and especially as she started going into ministerial school, because she did eventually become a minister. This is showing what our symbol for Science of Mind and Spirit is, and a beautiful picture of Luis. But as she really started delving and healing, it really brought up the big stuff. So how many of you have been coming and learning and taking classes, or even not, even just coming on Sundays, and you feel things changing? You feel stuff coming up. Well, here, we're really grateful, and I see the nods, and I see a few hands going up, and it was for me as well. And what's great about having a community like this is that it's supported, and we're empowered to really heal. And it was all about that responsibility and taking responsibility for our own healing. And yes, that may involve all sorts of other modalities, but it really has to come from within first. So now I'd actually like to share a little bit of what we believe here at, now CSL Kauai, but just Science of Mind and Spirit, because this is where her basis came from. And she definitely held on to a few even more dearly where she came from, especially around the healing. But here at CSL, we believe in God, that there is only one God and one Spirit. Doesn't matter what you call it, we choose to call it God, but that the manifest universe is the body of God, its logic, its necessary outcome. Like, we are the necessary outcome of God. We believe in the individualization of spirit in us. And that means that we are all one, we are all God, and we are all together and unified with God, and yet we are all unique. Each one of us here is a different expression of God, of that light. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. That means that we are always here, have always been here, will always be here. And you hear about that a lot through her, especially her meditations, but her talks and her speaking and in her writing. That even though we may physically die, our soul continues on, and it's an upward spiral. We're always expanding and we're always growing. We believe that heaven is within us. It's not a place we go. It's not a place we have to achieve. It's already here, it's already now, and it's already within. So we can go to heaven anytime we want. We just need to choose to. That's all. We believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. But it has to start with us, and it has to start within us. So when we change, when we grow, our life changes, our life grows, and then we affect everyone around us. There's a ripple effect. It can't help but happen. And that is the goal. Like, we are meant to be free already, not because of anything else except for who we are. And then we believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. So that's all beings, seen and unseen, all objects, animate and inanimate, everything. The chair, DJ, the screen, everyone in this room, we're all God. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature. What this sums up is that we have a direct connect. We are it. We don't need anybody else. It's great to come here and have this community of like-minded people to do it together, and yet we can do it all on our own. And that's because of who we already are. We're already tapped in. And we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God. So if you're new to the philosophy and you hear us talking about this law, I was saying that we fling this into the law. The law is actually what makes everything move forward. It makes our thoughts into our life experiences. It's what attracts what we are wanting, and sometimes if we're focusing on what we're not wanting, come into our life. That's the law. And the one mind is just what we are all already a part of. We believe in the healing of the sick and control of conditions through the power of this mind. This is really where Luis's life work was, meaning that physical healing starts in our mind and spirit first, and then our physical heals. And of course, we take care of the physical as we're working on our mind, but the healing truly happens first by revealing truly who we are. We believe in the internal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. And this to me means it's not picky, choosy. It happens for this one and not for that one. It happens for everyone, no matter who you are, where you are, what you believe. Because whether you believe this or not, it's actually irrelevant because it happens anyway. Just like gravity. You may not believe in gravity, but it's still going to act in your life regardless if you believe in it or not. And that's the same with this spirit. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. So there's one life, it's God's life, and it's my life now, and it's each and everyone's life. And this list can be found in the Science of Mind magazine. It's listed every month, which is our publication that's actually the longest publication, just a plug. Science of Mind also celebrating 100 years, another plug. But there's great articles, and you can learn so much from that reader. There's also daily readers, too. So I'd like to share a little bit more personally how Louise brought this into her own life. Because in 1976, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. She knew, because of all the work that she had done and her little blue book that she created, that it was a direct relation to the rape and all the sexual abuse that she had and the unforgiveness from it. Not necessarily from the trauma itself, it's from her not healing from it. It's from her still holding anger, rage, unforgiveness towards the people. So she went on. She started loving and forgiving herself. That was the first part of her regime. She had a health regime that she did. She chose not to go for surgery. She did not have chemo. She did not have radiation. But she went directly into alternative therapy. But first of all, she started with forgiveness and loving herself in a deeper, more conscious way. And it was really an opportunity for her to prove to herself that what she shares and what she teaches is the real deal. And it was through what she did for her physical body. And she did a lot of holistic methods, including fasting, juicing, cleansing her body, all the other Chinese medicine, all those therapies, and also affirmations, visualizations, cleansing, psychotherapy. And within 6 months, she completely healed herself from cervical cancer. And it's proved and documented by her doctors as well, because they didn't know what happened. They didn't believe her. They actually kind of thought she was crazy when she left and said, no, thank you. And she did it. And she truly had, we call it a miracle, but really that's what our bodies are meant to do. Our bodies are meant to heal themselves. We just need to get out of the way and start harming it. So this is just sharing about how she knew where it came from. And when she cleared the mental pattern, that's how her body was able to clear the cancer and to heal herself. Even until she died, she was always willing to try whatever would feel good and would help her heal in whatever way. She always learned. She always kept growing. She was always humble and knowing and believing that there was something else out there. And she had fun with it. That's one of the things that with Louise, like she may have been very direct and very clear in what she was wanting, and she was having fun with it. And there's some fun scenes of her. She had gotten herself a trampoline, like one of the personal trampolines when she was in her 80s, and just having fun with it and dancing and doing to music. But she was just open. She was open and willing. You've been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. What we think of ourselves matters. And I know that for me, going through the 2 years prior to the practitioner and then really delving in practitioner one into myself and then working with others, the approving myself part, that one's really where the work has been. And the really loving all of me, that's where the practice is. When they call this spiritual practice, it's because it's continuous. Then this little book came out. This was her second publication. She was very popular with the pamphlet, the You Can Heal Your Body. She included the list in this book as well and expanded it, includes her story. It was my first book of Louise that I found. This copy that I've had now, I've had a copy for decades now, but this one I love because it's so colorful and whimsical, and it includes the list, and it's hard for me to turn the pages and hold the microphone at the same time, but it's a beautiful copy, and it's always out, because if there's something going on physically with me, I just go and check it out. If there's something physically going on with Ron, I quietly check it out. And sometimes mention it, sometimes don't. But it's a book to be used. It's a reference book, actually. So it was revolutionary at the time, because the work that she did, especially with the pamphlet, was before it was really talked about that people were healing themselves and that there was a mind-body connection. She was revolutionary. It became the New York Times bestseller almost immediately, and spent 16 weeks on that list. Now it has sold over 50 million copies, translated into 25 languages, and is now available in 33 countries. Just this book. That's besides everything else that she's done. This is just this one book. It has been expanded and revised, and there are multiple covers. So there have been different versions I have owned as well, and even a third one that we have in the bookstore. And then 20 years later, she appeared on Oprah Winfrey. And you know what Oprah does? She blows the doors off of anybody's career. So she brought this book back to the forefront of the public, and it again went on the New York Times bestseller list. So for a book to have that happen twice with 20 years in between is really amazing. Oh, actually, I want to go back. So what I'd like to do now is actually delve into the book. And this is where audience participation. If you have something going on, if you have an ailment that's been troubling you, a little niggle-naggle that you haven't been able to get rid of, or you're just curious about, I can look it up for you. What the list does is it names the ailment, and then it says the probable cause, which she believes is the belief, the fear, the thought that's behind that. And then, because she's pretty rad, she offers a solution. So I'll take any takers. Arthritic shoulder. All right, so let me look up arthritis first. Again with the microphone. Okay, arthritis. The probable cause is feeling unloved, criticism, or resentment. So the new thought pattern, I am love. I now choose to love and approve of myself. I see others with love. Then let me look up shoulder, because sometimes it's specific. like it already hit. Shoulders represents our ability to carry out experiences in life joyously. We make life a burden by our attitude. New thought pattern. I choose to allow all my experiences to be joyous and loving. And you can take a picture of this later if you'd like. Yeah. And I saw Marion's hand come up. Okay. Is it like an infection? Okay. So I have choices: ears or earache. And it says ear canal, media, inner ear. What would that be called? Yeah. Ear canal. It's not coming up. Ears is. Well, let me read both and see if any of that resonates. So ears represents the capacity to hear. I hear with love. Earache, and that's where it has the ear canal, inner ear. Anger, not wanting to hear. Too much turmoil and parents arguing. The new thought pattern is harmony surrounds me. I listen with love to the pleasant and the good. I am a center for love. Okay. Neck pain. All right. I just looked this one up for myself, actually. It's fascinating. Neck problems. Refusing to see other sides of a question. Stubbornness, inflexibility. The new thought pattern. It is with flexibility and ease that I see all sides of an issue. There are endless ways of doing things and seeing things. I am safe. And then I think I saw. Loss of hearing. Yes, I believe that's on it. Finding hearing. That's interesting. That could be. Sometimes you have to go to the next. I love how patient everyone. I feel like everybody's on their edge of their seats. I'm like, I'm not feeling nervous trying to get through. I will have to look at hearing loss. Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll have to get back to you on that one. Maybe on the break I'll look it up. There might be another spot. Yes, Omarosa. Oh, good one. Not a good one to have. I know. Okay. It does bring me to dizziness. And it says, probable cause is flighty, scattered thinking, a refusal to look. A new thought pattern, I am deeply centered and peaceful in life. It is safe for me to be alive and joyous. All right. Yes, Betsy? Osteoporosis, feeling there is no support left in life, is a probable cause. New thought pattern, I stand up for myself, and life supports me in unexpected, loving ways. Powerful. And I think, Tommy, did you have your hand?
Wasn't for me personally, but I found Parkinson's to be very
Okay. Parkinson's. Fear and an intense desire to control everything and everyone. The new thought pattern. I relax knowing that I am safe. Life is for me, and I trust the process of life. Lower back. What was the second one?
No, I work with bigger dogs, but it's been a while since
Okay, so lower back. Let me look under back. Yes, back problems, lower. Found it. A probable cause is fear of money, lack of financial support. New thought pattern. I trust the process of life. All I need is always taken care of. I am safe. Do, do, do. Muscle cramps? Okay. What else would we call that? Maybe just cramps. Let me look at cramps. Because there was another. Okay, cramps. Tension, fear, gripping, holding on as probable cause. New thought pattern. I relax and allow my mind to be peaceful. Bookmark it. Yes, Rita. Ooh, prostate, yes. Ooh, I make it sound like, ooh. I know, it's like, ooh, okay. So there's prostate and then prostate problems. I'm assuming problems, both. Okay, when it's just prostate, it represents the masculine principle. New thought pattern, I accept and rejoice in my masculinity. And then under prostate problems, mental fears weaken the masculinity. Giving up, sexual pressure and guilt, belief in aging. So the new thought pattern, ooh, I heard a rumble. That was just the women. Yes, that was actually just the women rumbling through the room. So the new thought pattern is I love and approve of myself. I accept my own power. I am forever young in spirit.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bookmark that one too.
I drink to that.
Yes, sure.
You alluded to this before, but I'm assuming that she was able to write this because she did a lot of spiritual counseling. Was she a therapist?
It was through her practitioner sessions.
And so she kind of put the two together.
Exactly. So she compiled the list over the years that she did all the sessions, and because she did it full time, this was really what she did. She started connecting the dots of like what the underlying cause was for the physical ailment that was showing up. And it's not just, this happens to be like illness and wellness, but she also talks about different things, like if we have financial issues, if we've got relationship issues, you know, it wasn't just with our body, but that's what the list does concentrate on that. Yes?
Can I just say something about
Yeah.
So I've used this book probably since 1984, and I use it with all my clients who have all the ailments. And in 32 years, it's never once been wrong in terms of what you know, and that being affirmed by my clients who's saying, oh, yeah, that's it. So whatever she was the dots she was connecting them accurately according to my experience. Yeah.
Thank you. And I've seen too where I've looked up things for myself and been like, nope, that ain't it. La 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 la. and I know that feeling that resistance and wanting to ignore it means that it's actually extremely accurate. Any others before I move forward? Great. Well, thank you everybody for giving up your goods to be healed, literally. You can leave them all here. You're more than welcome to take pictures of your affirmation after if you want to. All right. So around this time, she started gaining popularity, but one of her most important life work was when she started the Hayride, and that was all around the HIV and AIDS supports. And it started with 8 guys hanging out in a room, and they called it the Hayride. It was a support, and all she wanted to do was help these men. Oh, I said 6. Help these men love themselves. This was a time in the 80s where it was terrifying. Nobody really knew what was happening. Nobody really knew what was going on. If there was no cure yet, and there was so much shame and so much guilt. And she wanted to help heal that shame and that guilt. By 1988, there had been 800 people meeting now on a weekly, and they had to go into public spaces because it became so big, and it was mostly word of mouth. Really, people were healing. People were loving themselves. People were still dying, but they were dying with a different kind of dignity and a love for themselves. So she started to love and support long before the people used to, that now we have the awarenesses with the different ribbons. She was in the forefront of really bringing a lot of awareness that healing, the spiritual healing, could still be had no matter what was happening physically. And she did have a book about this, the AIDS book, Creating a Positive Approach. And this is all that she learned from working with these mostly men, because at the time it was mostly men that were contracting HIV and then becoming sick with AIDS. So she, over those years, was support for thousands. And then in turn, it went out from there where they also helped people. Yes?
I just wanted to add something that at the time she started that, her courage and selflessness was huge. Because it's hard for us to remember now the lack of information and awareness. People were scared to be around.
Right. People were really petrified.
They didn't want to touch them.
Yep.
There were people dying alone because their families just were scared to death. And she did this at a time when there was no medical information that said it was safe to do.
Right.
So I just that really
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true because she literally and physically opened her arms up to them. And in a time where it was totally terrifying. So she brought a lot of love and a lot of peace, and she did help a lot of them pass on and be there for their transition. And a lot of them, because of the work they did, were reunited with their families. And that was something that was so powerful that this could happen for them. And a lot of it was done with mirror work, which we know she's ultimately famous for, is her mirror work. All that I seek is already within me, Louise Hay. I'd like to take a few minutes of a break, stretch your legs, get some water, and I've got some more goodies when we come back.